Hello and welcome back to the FPL Talk channel, and today is the final time we are going to be getting the prices before the actual game has dropped. I'm so excited for the game to drop. It's any second now. It might even be out when you're seeing this video, but we're going to take a look at the final prices that have come out. And first of all, as you can see on your screen, it's James Maddison for 8 million. Personally, I think this is a bit of an expensive one considering what is around him. You've got Saka, Bowen, and there's quite a few others around the 8 million mark this year. It's going to be really hard to build a team. If I really want to fit 3 premiums in my team, Salah, Haaland and Son, and to do that is going to be a big task considering all these players like Saka and all that, £8 million rather than being like 7.5. They were quite steep, but I'm going to find a way to do it. But personally for me, Maddison is not going to be going in there. If we take a look at some other options, we also have Jamie Vardy for 9.5 million. Again, he is their bagsman, but he's a bit old and he has been at rotational risk this past season, also suffering from a lot of injuries, and for 9.5 million, I feel like he's one of those fixture dependent one. I say it all the time, fixture dependent players where they get a nice run of games that are easier compared to where they've got harder fixtures, and you can't just keep him in for all them times. So if he was playing like, I don't know, Spurs and Arsenal in his next few games, I would be reluctant to put him in. But if he was playing some teams near the bottom, I might transfer him in. But 9.5, it's around that awkward price range really, because if you've got a premium striker, it's going to be really hard to fit in someone of that calibre at that price in the forward position. If we also take a look, Harvey Barnes for 7 million. Again, if I was going to go for one, I wouldn't go for Jamie Vardy or Maddison really. Harvey Barnes for 7 million though is actually quite tempting. That's pretty cheap and affordable, and he does come under that 8 million mark actually. And we have seen glimpses of how good he has been. He was on the verge of the England squad a few seasons ago, but he did suffer that big injury. And now he's back, and he did do some good numbers at the end of last season. And for 7 million, if they get some good fixtures, I might be looking at him out of all the Leicester options, to be honest. But as you can see here, there's also some 4.5 million very cheap defenders from Leicester City. I think Ricardo Pereira is probably the most nailed-on one. Justin might be the nailed-on left-back as well, and Fofana. But there's actually some really nice cheap defenders there, and I feel like I would put in one of those Leicester ones because they've got a nice rotational swap that we've looked at in a previous video with Wolves, and I feel like if I can get one of them in, I can use that strategy quite well. It goes all the way up to game week 10. If you pair a Leicester player with a Wolves player, then you can rotate them to get an easy fixture every week. But personally for me, I think Ricardo Pereira is my favourite off that list. Maybe Fofana, just because Fofana's pretty much nailed on. You know, he's come back from that long injury, but he played quite a few games at the end of last season, so he's back and ready to go. So that's Leicester. Let's move on to the next team. So someone at Crystal Palace obviously could not be bothered to make the FPL graphic, whether they just didn't have the time or they just couldn't be asked. We don't have one, so we've had to go on the link and look at the list of players they've got. Another 4.5 million pound keeper in Guaita going next to Sanchez, Rafa and a few others, I'm pretty sure, but I'm looking at a few 4.5 million keepers. Sanchez really is taking my eye at the minute for 4.5 million. However, you've got to remember, look at the price of Mendy. He's probably the one that's tempting me the most. If we look at some defenders then, Guehi, if I was going to go for a Crystal Palace defender, is probably the one I would choose, simply because he's got that aerial threat, and Mitchell is quite a defensive fullback really. He gets really good tackle numbers, tackle win percentage and or clearances and all that, rather than getting assists. He's not really one to bomb forward. And then, yeah, Guehi's really the only one that interests me there. We've also got Eze and Elise at 5.5 million. Now, that is very good value at that price, but it's dependent on which one's going to play more, basically, because we've also got Zaha, who's the nailed-on one, at 7 million now. Based on Crystal Palace's fixtures, if I was going to get one, it would probably be Zaha for 7 million, because he is what he is their biggest goal threat. He produces the most goals and assists normally in that attacking front line. And Elise and Eze, as I say, are rotational players that get swapped out a lot, and Zaha's always nailed on. It's like the striker position, right? 5.5 million for Edouard and Mateta is great value, but we don't know which one's going to play more. Mateta was favoured more at the end of last season over Edouard. However, Edouard did show his quality early on in the season and then just faded off. So basically, it'll be interesting to see how Crystal Palace start. And if they start with either Eze or Elise more, or Edouard or Mateta more, I'll probably be looking at one of them to get in when they have a nice run of fixtures. But Zaha, obviously, is my favourite one there, just because of how effective he is going forward. And he's more reliable than, obviously, all the others. Then on to quite a funny one now. Calvert-Lewin at 8 million. He literally was injured a lot last season. He scored hardly any goals. He came back, missed that penalty versus Brighton as I put him back in my team. And basically, he did absolutely nothing. And FPL have priced him at 8 million, which to be honest, I think is absolutely ridiculous. For someone that was in a relegation fight last year and hardly had any attacking prowess going forward, 8 million is a ridiculous price. So I don't think I'll be going anywhere near him unless he has an incredible start to the season and then gets a nice run of fixtures, because personally that really is not tempting me. Then we have Jordan Pickford at 4.5 million there. He's doing a runner on me there. But Jordan Pickford at 4.5 million. Again, he's at that 4.5 million mark with Sanchez and Raya, as we've already seen today with Guaita as well. But that's a really nice price. The issue is Everton conceded a lot of goals at the end of last year, so if they can strengthen up at the back and get a few signings in, I'll feel a lot more confident. They've already got James Tarkowski that's going to solidify that his Premier League experience, and Michael Keane and Tarkowski reunited. Who would have thought it at Everton, eh? But if Pickford can get some nice fixtures, then he could be one I'll look at bringing him in. Obviously, he's very good at them save bonuses, as he's always being worked in the goal. The next one that you might have had a glimpse of already is Anthony Gordon for 5.5 million. Now, Damari Gray is also the same price at 5.5 million, but Gordon at the end of the season under Frank Lampard, I nearly said Fat Frank then, oh my god, sorry Frank Lampard, you're of course watching this, I sincerely apologise to you, but Frank Lampard favoured Gordon for 5.5 million over Gray towards the end of the season, and he was rewarded for this because Gordon put in a lot of good performances. So again, 5.5 million is an absolute bargain, and if he can start many games, he would be an Everton asset I'd be looking at bringing in if I was to bring in any. Here you have some others. They don't really interest me, to be honest. I mean, you've got some 4.5 million defenders there that you could rotate from the bench, but other than that, I'm not going to be going for a Wobie or Dele Alli. Who would have thought a few seasons ago Dele Alli would be 5.5 million on FPL? The absolute downfall he's had is unbelievable. But you never know, he could have a comeback under Frank Lampard and be incredible again, because he does have that quality. He just needs to bring it back out. It's just not been there for a while, and he's kept it hidden for a long time. But that's Everton, so let's take a look at the next team. So next up, we're going Forest now. I've saved the best till last in Spurs, so make sure you stay tuned for that, because they are some of the best value players that we're going to see today. But first off, we've got Johnson coming in at 6 million. Personally, for me, I'm really not feeling the Forest assets. I mean, 6 million is great value for forwards, but when you've got Mitrovic who bangs in goals guaranteed, he set the Championship record for 0.5 million more. I think I'm going to favour him and spend a little bit extra if I do want to go for one of those newly promoted sides. And I do just think Forest will struggle this season. Yes, they've signed a few players that look half decent, but they're going to need a lot to stay in the Premier League, and 6 million is quite cheap for a quality young player, but he's obviously not Premier League proven yet. And I've already skipped over their new signing. I can't pronounce his name properly, honestly. I'm just going to be honest with you. I know who he is, but I can't pronounce his name. Awoniyi. That's my attempt for you. 6 million. He's come from the Bundesliga, and he looks pretty decent apparently. So it'll be interesting to see how he settles into the Premier League. Obviously, we've not seen him play properly in the Premier League regularly, so this will be interesting to see how he gets on. I wouldn't take a risk on him straight away for 6 million. I feel like Johnson is clearly more reliable. And look, they've only got a whopping 6 players. What has gone on? They've got no players. This says it all about their depth. They've got no depth. It's not looking good for them. Hopefully they can continue bringing in some more signings and do like a Sheffield United a few seasons ago. Just never know. They've been promoted for a reason, obviously, and no one should go under the radar. As you can see there, Surridge was pretty good in the Championship when they signed him from Stoke, and he's for only 5 million, so if he can start games, he could be an underrated one if you need a cheap striker. But for me, Forest assets are ones that I'm going to stay away from because they're just not too reliable. So as I said, we're saving the best till last, and today we found out Spurs' players and their prices, and there was a lot of excitement around these. And first of all, we have Harry Kane for 11.5 million. Now, this is nicely priced considering he did struggle at the start of the season and he had an amazing end to the season. But 11.5 is coming in at the same price as Haaland, so it's a bit of a toss-up between which one you want. I would only have one forward that is a premium, either Kane or Haaland, so whichever one you're feeling more. Personally, I'm edging towards Haaland more just because of how good he was in the Bundesliga. And also, as you can see later, we're going to see Son. And I prefer to have Son in my team. And I don't really fancy the double up. If I was going to do that, I'd probably get Kulusevski because he's a lot cheaper. But Kane's not a bad option at 11.5 million for a premium player. But this is one I'm guaranteed putting in my team. Heung-min Son. Now, he had the most penalty goals last season in the Premier League and got joint golden boot with Mo Salah, and his numbers were absolutely incredible. And for 12 million, he's still a million cheaper than Salah, but I feel like I'm going to have both in there because I just can't, like, I'm going to have to have a weaker bench probably, so I can just fit Haaland, Son and Salah in. I just can't help myself. I need those 3 premiums. They're just absolutely incredible. And I feel like Son is a must-have for me. He might not be for most people, but for me, he certainly is. And this is one of the best budget players in FPL right now. 5.5 million for Perisic. People are expecting him to come in as a midfielder possibly, but he has become a defender in FPL. And Conte predominantly likes to get his wing-backs involved in the play, and we know Perisic is one of the best in the world at this. He's played in a World Cup final, he's got all the experience, Champions League, all of that, and 5.5 million is a bargain when you compare him to the other fullbacks and defenders in FPL, and he's a pretty much nailed-on player for me. With Spurs also having a nice start in fixtures, it means that he can get quite a few clean sheets and also have a chance at getting these attacking returns. Now, Lloris for 5.5 million surprises me compared to Mendy. He is more expensive with 5.5 million there, but obviously Spurs have strengthened with summer signings a lot. And there's Kulusevski in the bottom right. He was incredible last season from January. Loads of people brought him in for 8 million, which is, I would say, reasonably priced. That's why I'm not bringing in Maddison, because there's just better options. Like Kulusevski is a lot better than Maddison, and I think he'll produce better numbers. Other than that, you wouldn't really go for any centre mids from Spurs. And some of the defenders, 5 million, but clearly Perisic is the superior option there. And if you want a Spurs player to rotate on the bench, then you can do that as well, I guess. But that is all the new players. Hopefully FPL will be here very, very soon. It could even be here now while you're watching this video. But if you are new, leave a like on the video. And please do subscribe if you're new. It is very much appreciated. Just hit 150 subscribers, which we love to see. And we just want to keep growing that, basically. So I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.